We are Vineyard.
And it comes back to this key point when it comes to mentoring and just even life in the church. When we allow people to walk with other people in a healthy enough way that they can actually discover who God's created them to be in the midst of a community and how he's created them to image himself through them for the life and the good of the whole, it brings up abundant life.
Yeah.
In ways they never experienced before because they were actually created to live in a certain way by God and his wonderful design, uniquely for them, and they're finally living into it. And so what I would say to people is, if we're not thinking through discipleship in that way, for those who have the gift of teaching, they come alive when they teach. For those who have the gift of giving, they come alive when they give. For those who have the gift of mercy, they come alive when they're engaged in mercy.
Yes.
That's the goal of the church. To help people be the people God's intended them to be, right?
Yes.
For his glory in the world. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir, I know that, but I don't think we think of it when it comes to people who have the gift of giving, because some of our stories put a hitch in our giddy up in talking to them about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that passage in Timothy is real direct.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, we need to create a way so they can actually experience the life that was meant to be for them.
Welcome to the We Are Vineyard podcast, conversations to help us grow with Jesus and each other. In today's episode, Jay will be interviewing Jason George, the Chief Development Officer for Vineyard USA. Let's listen in.
Hey, Jason, thanks for joining me for We Are Vineyard. We've been together before, but we get another swing at it. Thanks for making time.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. Thanks for making the time too.
We've done one of these before, so if people haven't heard your story, they can go back. We'll put it in the show notes, but a way for them to hear just about you and our shared Indianness. And
I forgot about that part. Yeah,
that's right. It was good.
Yeah.
That was good. I remember it being really fun. But this time, because we've already done all that, we get a chance to hear more about what you're doing with development, kind of all the work that we're doing in the Vineyard with the Day of Giving that's upcoming, as well as the Day of Giving in the past, and just different kind of work that we're doing. So tell us a little bit about some of the stuff that you are excited about, Day of Giving, some of the stuff with free will. There's a bunch of interesting things to talk about.
Yeah. So if you're looking at any fundraising shop, they usually have different streams of giving that we try to do our best to develop and bring sustainability to and strength to. So that can range from anything from your traditional grants from foundations like the Lily grants, like we've done in the past. And I know you guys have talked about at different times with Danielle. So we have that aspect of life. We also have the reality of annual giving, which is our Day of Giving, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. We also have planned giving, which is what we're doing with free will. And we also have major gifts and sponsorships. So right now we're working in those 5 areas the most, and we're seeing some really good fruit in a lot of things. So let me give you some quick updates on what's going on in the planned giving world. So we've developed a partnership with Free Will. Free Will is it's a company that does literally wills for free online. And we created a partnership with them where every church that has come on board with us to do this can get their own free branded site, and they can actually help their congregation walk through getting their own free wills if they don't have wills already in place. And so the reality is, like, when you look at the stats across the country, over 65% of Americans don't have a legitimate will in place. Mm-hmm. And so all of those things would go to probate from a truly practical standpoint, but even from a relational family standpoint, that means a lot of families are going to be wondering, what am I supposed to do now?
Yeah.
With all the stuff that's just unmarked and undesignated. Shoot, how do I even do a funeral for my family member? Do they want to be cremated? Do they want to be buried? Like, if people don't have a will in place and have clarity about those things, it leaves so much to just questions and honestly extra emotional toll and heartache during the process that's already hard enough.
Jason, I cannot agree with you more. I do funerals. I don't even know how many. And funerals are like weddings in that everything's heightened. Everybody's predicting the way it should be. Whenever anybody's getting married, I always tell them at least 4 or 5 things are going to go horribly wrong the day of your wedding. The problem is you don't know which 4 or 5 things, and they will all revolve around someone's emotional heightened state. So your mom is stressed, doesn't know how to manage it, so they're going to want to do whatever. Your dad, whatever. Your brother, your Aunt Susie, who, is mad at Uncle Joe, is going to make a big fuss because they didn't sit at the right table, whatever. Something's going to happen, okay? The problem that what works with the wedding, though, is you can resolve it. All the people are there. So you can go to the bride and say,
it's a good time to party.
Yeah, exactly. Eventually, we all get to the end. Okay. The problem with the funeral is the person we're all trying to manage isn't there. So somebody shows up the last minute with they always loved Wind Beneath My Wings. We should add this song into the ceremony. You're like, well, hold on. We already did all that. Okay. So just the ceremony itself, it's worth doing a will. But I'll tell you what, I have been involved with so many families at the level of trying to manage the estate. And the vast majority of people, like you said, don't have a will that works. So they spend all their energy trying to wrestle all the assets back out of the government's hands, which I know no one will be surprised to hear this, but the government generally likes to hold on to assets, wants to have them. And so you have to make a case for why the family should get it back, and it takes all the work. And people aren't lawyers. They're not trained to do this stuff.
I know this sounds like a pithy phrase, but in so many aspects, I think so many people think about the idea of well, eternity is a welcome thing for that person.
Right.
And I agree fully. But don't leave your family to suck through the reality of probate.
Totally. We're still all doing it down here. You're happy. Yeah. We're not. Yeah. So, again, I think for all the reasons you just described, and I think, what I had heard people say, that pre-will probably people wouldn't say this because they're more godly or whatever. But my experience is people are never more generous than when they're dead.
That's true too. But here's the thing too, so this is the part that it's absolutely true. But here's the funny thing too. I don't think sometimes I've heard pastors tell me, this isn't my lane. I don't want to talk about these kind of things. I'm not a financial advisor. And I just keep pushing back gently as much as I can. Sometimes not so gently, but most times gently.
Right.
It's still a kingdom conversation. And the idea of how a person leaves a legacy within their family and beyond matters. And they're looking for someone to kind of help them see, what does it mean to live in a kingdom way? Do I have to give everything to all my kids? Do I have to give everything to the church? What's the balance? What does it mean? What does it mean to hack that conversation out in a healthy way? And here's when I think of this conversation, I think of so many people who actually end up being kind of freed up to think of their finances and conversations with their kids around finances in a whole new way.
Totally.
Because they can look at little Johnny or Susie and say, oh, they're actually doing pretty well. What would happen if I say to them, hey, I'm giving you this amount of money to do what you want for the grandkids, but I'm also leaving this amount of money, and I'm asking you to think through it and how to give it away and bless other people and show your kids how to do it.
Yep.
That's an incredible legacy to leave a family.
That's really good. And so, Jason, if I'm a person in a Vineyard church or I'm a Vineyard pastor and I'm I don't think I have a will. I'm in the 65%. What should they do? Should they bother their pastor to talk to you? If it's a pastor, should they call you? What do you think's the next step? What should they do?
Well, right now, so let me give you some quick stats. We have 115,000 churches already onboarded. And so if you're part of those churches, talk to your pastor and say, hey, do we have this already in place? And if they do, they'll give you the site and you can walk through that. And I mean, everything, the beauty of free will is that everything has been vetted so that it meets all local state requirements. But you still need to have someone look over it just to make sure, or at least talk through it with your family so that you're not doing it in a silo. Because even this in my mind is a community and a kingdom conversation. Like it's both.
Yeah.
Like, and the more you pull in your community, the actual more kingdom values start to hit the floor with everybody in your community around it.
Yep.
So they understand where you stand. They understand where your heart for the kingdom is in the midst of it. And if people don't, like the kids in the mix, don't really have kingdom values guiding their life, they're encountered in a moment where they have to deal with it. Because the rub of seeing their parents deal with kingdom values is going to leak into their own life, whether it's through their excitement for giving something away to someone else or their disappointment for not getting as much as they wanted.
Right.
So it's just like there's so many awesome shepherding opportunities for a pastor to step into the space. So my first piece would be for anybody in a Vineyard congregation, ask your pastor if they have onboarded into the partnership with Free Will. If they haven't, then they can just go to the Vineyard USA website. And actually, we have our own branded site with Vineyard USA, and you can actually do everything you want with the will there, and you can designate gifts out that via that way too. So there's those two ways of doing it. If you want to specifically do free will, and you also want to bless the kingdom,
cool,
through the Vineyard. So
that's good.
Isn't it pretty cool?
It is.
So some other fun stats. Ever since we started this partnership, we've seen 162 bequests come in from 132 unique donors. And right now we're at just under $37 million in total bequest dollars for local churches.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we're not seeing that money right now. I mean, it will be as time goes on, but I hope people see that's a lot of generosity. And it's not just generosity for the sake of, hey, I'm just doing a 10%. It's a thought out. It's a prayerful, Lord, what would you want me to do for the kingdom?
Yeah.
Because those are pretty big numbers. And it's just this wonderful way to see the kingdom play out in the day in and day out. Along with free will, the legacy side, we also have the smart giving side with free will. And the smart giving side just allows any person to be able to give a gift of assets, whether it be stock, security, crypto, et cetera, et cetera. So right now we've had 2 crypto gifts for around 10,000 come in. We've had 10 stock gifts already come in at $120,000 for local churches. And so you're looking at the average stock gift is just under $12,000. So for a local church, if they want to get involved in free will, even just from the smart giving suite side, you can send your local congregants to the Vineyard USA Smart Giving Suite with free will, and they can designate gifts to you for end of year giving. It's pretty awesome.
That is great. Well, and I assume the reason why that's helpful is the vast majority of local churches are often unclear as to how they would even navigate a gift like that, right? So if I'm just a local church pastor, I don't know how to receive a gift like that. So Vineyard USA is saying, well, we have a way to help you do that. Yeah.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yep.
Okay.
And the beautiful part of it is it doesn't cost anything for the local church to use that tool that we've made available to everybody. And so that's really nice because so many times when you have to pull in a broker, you will pay some sort of fee.
Totally.
So this way you don't have to worry about that.
That's great.
But here's a fun little story. So one of the churches that we've had, local church in Iowa, decided to run the play that free will is kind of trying to coach pastors and churches to do. So during Make a Will month in August, they just did some simple outreach. They talked about it from the stage. They even talked about it on their Facebook page. They had 33 bequests come in between August 1st and October 3rd for an estimated $2.4 million in total bequests.
Wow.
So that means the average bequest size for this church, just this short campaign, was an average of $72,000.
Man,
that's pretty amazing.
It is.
That you get 33 people in that church who are saying, hey, I love my church. I actually want to see my church thrive well beyond my years. So I'm actually going to leave a legacy gift when my day comes.
Dude, that's great.
Like, so it's pretty sweet to see what the Lord's doing in the area of legacy gifts, and even just that smart giving suite space with our partnership with Free Will.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to annual giving, last year we had the Day of Giving, and we had $294,000 come in, and it was awesome to see the generosity of our people in the Vineyard movement, just wanting to say thanks to the Lord for all that the Vineyard has meant to them and what the Vineyard has done over the last 50 years. And actually just as a thank offering in some ways, because that's what last year was pretty much. And so some of the results from that is we got to see from the VLE world, that's Vineyard Leadership Essentials. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's a leadership course that we at the Vineyard are hosting through different Vineyard churches across the country. And basically and Jay, you can kind of speak into this too.
Mm-hmm.
It helps people wherever you are in the process develop a sense of, okay, this is what it means to look like a leader, a person who follows Jesus and walks with Jesus. This is what it means to be a Vineyard leader, to do it in a way that's spirit-led with all the Vineyard values that we have. And this is what it looks like to grow into it for the long haul. Is that a fair?
That was good.
Fair summary.
No, I think you did good. Yeah. I mean, if you look it up online, I mean, what I think we realized was how many Vineyard churches had different kinds of leadership programs. And they were, set up for their own local church. But often they found gaps like, yeah, we're not really sure how to do this bit on the kingdom, or, we could use some help thinking through some of the different ways the discipleship works. And frankly, if you're a smaller church, especially, it's a lot of work to generate all that material. How do we build classes and videos and documents and homework? And so we basically tried to build what amounts to a leadership track in a box that any church could take, and then you're doing all the work of mentoring and connecting. And so, the real work is life on life and the connections, but it takes a lot of work to even get there. And so we built basically a set of frames that hopefully would serve a local church. You don't even have to be the pastor to run it. You can be a lay leader, and it'll take a lot of the time off of you for education, writing. And so, yeah, that's available. And the Day Giving helped get that done, which is a big deal.
Yeah. And the cool thing is, like, if you want some cool reality when it comes to numbers, like in the last year, we've had 45 churches complete Foundations 1. We've had 66 churches actively moving through Foundations 1 and or 2 right now. That means, and that's come to a total of 699 participants and mentors. And then we have another 24 churches who are in the hopper for the winter of this year.
Wow.
So, I mean, and that's all in thanks to the giving and the generosity and the partnership of every individual who chose to give during our Day of Giving last year. And so thank you so much for all of that.
Yeah. Amen.
I mean, it's pretty cool to see how the Lord just births generosity when we learn how to stir the kingdom day in and day out.
Totally. That's good. That's really good. Okay. So we have some of our grants. We've worked with Lily and others. We have Free Will, helping people think about like the Smart Giving Suite. And then we're also talking about now the Day of Giving, which is coming up, right? Day of Giving is...
It is coming up on Tuesday, December 2nd, Giving Tuesday. And so we're really excited about it. And we're looking at this year, everything that we're bringing in for the Day of Giving and we're asking people to give toward for the Day of Giving is for the next generation. You said a few things about it at conference this past year in Cincinnati and in Denver. And one of the things that stood out to me when you spoke about it was we want to give it away now to people we don't even know for the sake of the church being sustainable and growing and fruitful for generations to come.
Yep.
And I love that because that's the heart of the gospel.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and so, yeah, that's what we're gearing toward, and so it'll help us in a few different ways this year. We've got some things earmarked when it comes to igniting the Vineyard youth, engaging through dynamic events. So it would be like strengthening our winter youth retreats. It would be helping with Project Timothy. It'd also be developing cross-regional and regional and national youth gatherings over the next few years. It would also give a chance for us to create a resource kit, providing training for hundreds of leaders every year, and also a chance to launch a digital resource hub so that pastors and local churches can actually have a space to get all sorts of different youth resources. And then along the way, we're also going to be developing pathways for discipleship, like, for instance, hopefully expanding Project Timothy in the future, and establishing other leadership tracks for young adults and college kids to get involved in what it means to walk with Jesus for a lifetime and actually pour their lives out. So those are some of the things that we're looking forward to when it comes to what we're investing in. And we're pretty excited to see what the Lord does with it. And let me do a quick plug for those churches, for those of you in churches, if you are wanting to participate, and I invite all of you to participate and just make it available to all your people as an option to give on Day of Giving, on Giving Tuesday, you're more than welcome just to simply email us at generosity@vineyardusa.org, and we'll make the media kit available to you so you guys can participate. Or if you actually look back at last month's monthly VUSA email, you'll see the link to the kit there too.
And is there, I should know this, I'm actually asking right now, is there a way to sign up for the Vineyard monthly email that if they're not already on that, somebody may have heard that and they went, oh, I didn't even know that was a thing.
So pastors are automatically signed up.
Right.
But yes, you can reach out to generosity@vineyardusa.org, and we'll make sure you get connected so you can actually sign up for the Vineyard USA month.
Yeah. You're like, I'll take that on. I'm in. Okay, great. Good. I like that. Good answer. That's a good answer. Good.
I'll pivot on that one. I wasn't ready for that.
You're like, I'm ready. I'm in. I'll do whatever. Okay, good. So that's happening in the background as well. We're getting ready for that. If you're a pastor, a leader, we do have a packet that you can use to help you advertise with your local church or even on Sunday. I think it's important to say this, Jason. I think we've said this in every room we've been in, but for some reason, it's a hard one for people to take on as a local church pastor, and this will help us maybe with the rest of our conversation as well. Most pastors have been trained to think about giving really in only two doors at most, maybe a third here and there, which is your regular giving, i.e. what has classically been known as tithing. And, so we're teaching on generosity, what it means to give your first and your best, what is a tithe, 10%, on and on. And then many pastors have, because of growth or opportunity, done a building campaign or two. So, we need to raise some money so that we can either build out a space for leasing or we can buy a building. Okay, so those are the two main ways pastors have done anything ever. Maybe another kind of campaign for this youth initiative, or we want to build this, a food pantry or something else.
Sure.
But it's always kind of in that way. And what many pastors haven't done or thought through is this kind of thing, like, we're a part of a larger family, or we want to help work with another organization. I think, as we've worked with groups like Convoy of Hope or Compassion, the idea that you would have a day of giving to work with this organization to serve the poor or to sponsor kids. These are things that a lot of pastors haven't really thought all the way through. And I think it's very important we say this, as we're talking as Vineyard USA with folks in your churches, we want them tithing. We want them giving to your church. So at every point we can, when we talk about financial stewardship, we're going to say, give to your local church. You should know the dreams of your local pastor, for example, not just not just how they're, doing the day to day, but you should know about a building campaign. You could be contributing to that. You should be giving regularly, and you could be generous in your local church. But what I think most pastors don't realize is almost anyone who has a gift of giving in your church is giving elsewhere. They're also being asked by their university. They're also being asked by the local YMCA. They're also being asked by some museum that their wife or their grandma or they go to, or their husband went through a cancer thing. And so they are thinking about how to help their local hospital. And so most people are giving elsewhere. And what we want to ask Vineyard pastors to think about is, wouldn't you want them to be giving to your larger family, Vineyard USA? Wouldn't you want to be a part of instead of that just going to whomever is email them enough or chase them down? Wouldn't you want them to at least be aware of what God is doing in your larger family called the Vineyard, and give them an opportunity to think about giving? And so our commitment is, we always want to keep focusing on local churches, but also to be giving some bigger dreams. What did I miss there? Does that fit some of what you see?
Oh, it totally fits. And so let me put it this way. So I think one of the things I've learned, so when I was hired on a couple of years ago, I thought I was being hired on to build a platform and build a system and then raise a bunch of money for the Vineyard. I think I've learned over the last 2 years that I've also been given this sacred trust that I've been trying to figure out how to do well. A lot of pastors have broken money stories. They don't realize that the way they look at money actually affects the way their church will look at money.
Right.
And it seems like a very A plus B equals C moment. But for many pastors, I don't know if they recognize it. So for instance, let me give you a quick story and then I'll circle back to this. After realizing this, I started realizing we needed to actually have a space to have conversations. So during the national conferences every year, we just host, my team and I host this Spiritual Foundations of Fundraising conversation. So in 24, when we hosted it, there was a pastor from Kentucky. He was really just kind of wrecked by it. And we ended up talking a good bit once or twice after. And he just started to see how, even though he was a former banker, he just didn't want to talk about money in the church. And he was navigating a church split. They ended up losing 35% of their people. But after that, he was just like, okay, Lord, I'm in. So he just started preaching about, what does it look like to be a good steward with everything that we've got? What does it mean to lay everything before the Lord and ask him to direct? And as he started doing that, he started to see things change, and he started speaking into the money space. He didn't shy away from it. But he didn't go all out campaign the whole way either. He just was like, hey, this is how we're going to deal with it. And he just faithfully started just leaning in. So a year later, he comes up to me, the next conference in 2025. He's like, hey, I got a cool story. We're down 35% in number. We lost 35% of our church on that church split last year I told you about. He was like, we just got back about 20% of the people, numbers wise. But can I just tell you, our giving is up so high that we actually just paid off our mortgage.
Wow.
And so the church building is mortgage free right now.
Praise the Lord.
And simply because he realized, oh, I was actually kind of holding back what people were experiencing in this moment because of something in my story that was just malformed because of past experience, good or bad. I mean, it's kind of that EF mindset. Sometimes we make vows we just don't realize.
Yeah.
And we do that with money. Some vows will be like, I will not ask for money. Some vows will be like, well, I always have to talk about money. Mm-hmm. And so therefore I don't want to.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it could be either end of the spectrum, like wherever you are. And so just my push on that would just be would you just be willing to examine the stories that you're holding before the Lord and just say, Lord, is it what the story that you want me to hold? But to kick that into the idea of like, okay, there's a space you're talking about. Whether you're being as direct as you want to be, I think you're talking about that major gift space.
Yeah.
And so the ideas of major gift givers is exactly what you said. People have multiple pockets to give out of when they're usually high net worth individuals, or if they're just really well disciplined and they choose to live well below their means and they just want to give a lot of things away.
Mm-hmm.
Those people, they know they have the gift of generosity and they've built the discipline to do it. And so that's pretty awesome. But you also have to have that conversation with them for them to engage with you and your church.
Yes.
And what you're doing locally.
Yes.
On top of that, there's that space where I think a lot of pastors I've discovered, I think they're kind of intimidated by entrepreneurial business men and women because they're successful, because they're usually pretty opinionated. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes I think pastors shy away from a moment of just saying, hey, how do you actually let kingdom values dictate what you do?
Yes.
And I think that's a real conversation because a lot of major gift givers are people who are highly successful, who are highly motivated, who are usually pretty type A driven. And they just know what they want and they know how to get there. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because like so many of these people will be in a church like yours and they will say things to pastors. Like, I don't know how many times you've heard this, but people might just say, oh yeah, I invested in this and ended out with this quick windfall. Pretty cool, huh? Or I just bought a house over on the beach for vacation. Or I just list whatever the list is of things that they're just saying of things they're doing. And you as a pastor have a choice to be like, oh, that's great. And just say nothing. Or say, oh, that's really cool. Can I get curious with you? I'd love to hear how you actually make those decisions.
Yep.
Because from my experience, when I've seen men and women do that with pastors, you got to remember those men and women, as type A and as driven as they are, there's something about the community that they are in with you that has led them to say, I want to be part of this community and I got to figure out what it means to submit to this community in some way. So they've actually self-selected to be part of your community. Mm-hmm. So they've actually self-selected you as an authority of some sort.
Yep.
And in that moment, when they bring those little things to you, if you don't simply just ask, oh, how do you come to those conclusions? Like, how do you come to those kind of decisions? Like, what are the values guiding you? If you don't say anything, you've affirmed their decision and confirmed they're doing their right by themselves and their family and their business without any conversation. And honestly, they're just looking for affirmation or challenge. Mm-hmm. Because they look to you, whether you realize it or not, as a spiritual authority.
Vineyard USA's Day of Giving is coming up on Giving Tuesday, December 2nd. How old were you when you discovered a life with Jesus? Research reveals that most people in the U.S. who commit their lives to Christ do so during their childhood or teenage years. In the Vineyard in 2024, we celebrated 50 years of God's faithfulness, 50 years of Come Holy Spirit, 50 years of Everyone Gets to Play. And this year at Vineyard USA, we're looking ahead to the next 50 years, asking, what if everything that we've done in the Vineyard so far is so we can give it away to the next generation? We want to invest together in our kids, our teens, and our young adults who will carry this family of churches into the next 50 years and beyond. Every gift will make a difference. Please pray and consider how you can give towards our Day of Giving on December 2nd. You can find more information at vineyardusa.org. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. And I think, Jason, what really was a learning curve for me, which I don't know is true for every pastor, but certainly it's for me, was to realize that I have a responsibility. I probably knew this in every other arena, but I have a responsibility to pastor different people differently.
Yeah.
So, you pastor a single person differently than you pastor a married person.
Mm-hmm.
You pastor a woman different than a man, generally. You pastor an older person differently than you pastor a younger person. And there's lots of Bible for this, right? Like, Paul's instructing someone like Timothy, saying, hey, speak to older men like they're your fathers. Or, hey, women, when you disciple younger women in these particular ways. And so, the Bible over and over kind of cuts up the room and says different kinds of people. You talk to a leader differently than you talk to just a new believer, or you talk to an elder differently. Elders have different responsibilities than just a person who's discovering a life with Jesus. And there was one passage, I'll read it because has come to mind as we're talking, that really, really messed with me. It has changed how I've thought about this. This is Paul talking to Timothy. He says, command those who are rich in this present age, the present world, not to be arrogant or to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but to put their hope in God, who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. Command them to do good, to be rich in good deeds, and to be generous and willing to share. In this way, they will lay up treasure for themselves as a firm foundation for the coming age, so that they may take hold of the life that is truly life.
Amen.
And I was so...
And can I say something to that? Oh, go ahead.
Please.
Go ahead.
No, but what struck me is how natural and reflexive it is for me when I read the Bible to go, oh, okay. He's saying, talk to older men like this. Oh, okay. Talk to leaders like this. Oh, okay. Make sure you do. Okay. But then when it came to this one section, Timothy, you're going to come across some people that have more wealth than other people. Okay. Mm-hmm. I want you to pay attention to them. They need you to pastor them in a particular way. Because the clear teaching of the Bible is that people who have more wealth than other people are actually in more danger than you realize.
Yeah.
Because, if you read that verse backward, they can be tempted to put their hope in wealth, which is not as certain as they think. And they can be tempted to use their richness to manage their own life or the things that they care about, when really they've been given a particular gift or sets of gifts or capacities or abilities, much like you might be a better musician than other people, or you might be better with your hands than other people, or you might be better counseling or prophecy, or it doesn't matter. Whatever it is that you've been given is not for you. It's for the sake of others. Well, there's one thing, according to the Bible, is also a thing that's not for you. You can use this for the sake of others. And Paul says, you're going to come across these people. Be intentional in how you disciple them. Like, talk to them directly about how those gifts work. And then challenge them because their life needs to matter. That is like really
here's
clear.
The piece that I keep hearing. Yeah, absolutely. And here's the piece too, so oftentimes pastors will tell me, well, I'm not supposed to show favoritism and partiality according to James.
Totally.
Yes, that's true.
Yes.
But this passage that you actually brought to the table in Timothy, it was actually how to actually bring someone of high net worth and vast means into the life of the community. Mm-hmm. It's not about partiality. It's about actually, hey, this is where you fit into the life of the community. And this is actually what it means to have the abundant life. I told the story of during our last annual report video, about a pastor in Cleveland who I've been working with. And I told him, he was telling me about some of the demographics of his church. And I just told him, I was like, be on the lookout for this one or two couples, the way you've described them, I wouldn't be surprised if they come to you. And make sure you have clarity about what you're asking for, clarity about what you're doing, so that they have clarity about what they could pray through to give toward. And he was like, okay, whatever. 2 months later, he texts me up and says, hey, can we talk? One of the couples did come up to him, and she said, I want to help remedy some things in the church. And so I was like, okay, did you give her your business plan? And he's like, I didn't make one. So I helped him. We created this ask, two separate asks. One was for remediating some of the things that are going on in their budget around salaries, and also opening up new ministries. But the way he kept talking about her, I was like, you also need to talk to her about just your general reserves to see what happens. And so anyway, led to two different asks. One was $114,000 over 3 years. The other was $90,000 over 3 years. She said yes, the first without batting an eye. The second one she was surprised at because it was reserves. And she was like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. Can you come back to me in 25 and we'll look at it? And he was like, yeah, that's great. So I got to meet with them in the spring of 25, got to meet her. And as we were talking, I just said to her, I was like, has anyone ever told you have the gift of giving? Mm-hmm. She's like, what's that? And I was like, it's in Romans 12. It talks about this. And I explained it to her. And she's like, does that mean I don't ever feel more alive than when I actually am giving things away? I'm like, that's usually a telltale sign, yes.
Right.
And
like most gifts, it turns out, right? I mean, like, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And this is the beautiful part. So this is the funny thing. We met a few months later, just her and I just catching up on Zoom. And I was like, so what's it been like discovering this gift? She's like, it's opened up life to me in a whole new way. Mm. And I was like, would you say you're finally discovering what the abundant life was meant to be for you and the Lord? And she's just like, yeah, I think I would. And it comes back to this key point when it comes to mentoring and just even life in the church. Like, when we allow people to walk with other people in a healthy enough way that they can actually discover who God's created them to be in the midst of a community, and how he's created them to image himself through them for the life and the good of the whole, it brings up abundant life.
Yeah.
In ways they never experienced before, because they were actually created to live in a certain way by God in his wonderful design, uniquely for them, and they're finally living into it. And so what I would say to people is, if we're not thinking through discipleship in that way, like for those who have the gift of teaching, they come alive when they teach. For those who have the gift of giving, they come alive when they give. For those who have the gift of mercy, they come alive when they're engaged in mercy.
Yes.
Like, that's the goal of the church, to help people be the people God's intended them to be, right?
Yes.
For his glory in the world. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir, I know that. But I don't think we think of it when it comes to people who have the gift of giving. Because some of our stories put a hitch in our giddy up in talking to them about it. Mm-hmm. And that passage in Timothy is real direct. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, we need to create a way so they can actually experience the life that was meant to be for them.
No question. Well, and yeah, I mean, I think money, exactly what you said, is tricky because we see other people manage money in a way that's inappropriate, so I don't want to be like the used car salesman who's just trying to leverage that last $2,000,
Yep.
That feels bad. Like, I don't like it when someone's trying to work me for the $9.99 plan that I know they're actually putting me on the hook for more money later. I don't like all these little schemes people have. And so all I would say to pastors is, great. Don't do that. Don't be that way. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. Like, here's a way to not be that way. Don't be that way.
Yeah.
Here's what you could do instead, though, is realize, no, I have a job. Part of my job as a pastor is first of all to talk and disciple generally about money. And I think you and I have talked about this, and we've been giving more and more resources to churches. You know, if you don't regularly, like on a rhythm, talk about money in the life of your church, here's what I want to say to you as a pastor. You're not discipling your people. Like, forget about like how the budgets work, or could we get this or that building, or, you know, let's just put all that aside and just say, if your job is to disciple the church, that's your job. That means you're trying to get them to have a biblical perspective about everything in their life, from their sex life to how their relationships work. That's your job. You're to be at least teaching the whole counsel of God, as Paul says. So, okay, that's your job. So part of your job then is to talk about money. And it turns out Jesus talks about money more than pretty much anything else. When he wants to illustrate anything, he talks about money. So because money surfaces emotional commitments, different kinds of things going on. Time and money demonstrate priorities. Now, so if you're going to disciple people, you got to talk about money, period. You just have to. And there's a lot of pastors that don't do that. Like if you look at their preaching schedule, or you look, you know, if you have an open illustration. Okay, so I want to talk to someone about some part of how commitment works. Well, you should follow the way of Jesus. Use money as an illustration. Like when Jesus wants to describe any number of things, commitment, stewardship, trusting others, you know, he'll use money as an illustration. He does. So I would just tell pastors, use money as an illustration at any gap in a sermon. Like, I don't know how to get this point across. Could I talk about money as a way of getting to people's hearts and disciple them? And then second, you just need at least a few talks a year that are just about people's personal finances, because we know this, that one of the highest places of shame Americans in particular carry is around money. So if you want to deal with shame, you got to talk about money. Number 2 reason why people end up divorced, money. So if you care about marriage, you got to talk about money. You just have to. You just can't not talk about it if you care about people's marriages, because their marriages are coming apart because they don't know how to get on the same page around money. So that's just what I'm talking about right now. Is just called pastoring. Forget about like fundraising or budgets or building. We call this pastoring.
Yeah.
That's what we call this. But then we're clicking up to another gear, which is there's a particular kind of person in your church that Paul says, just wait a minute, just pause and pay attention. And again, this is called pastoring. People have unique challenges. For example, super highly prophetic people in your church, like they like, you know, have regular visions, and or they, you know, ascend to heaven from time to time and have these weird things happen. Okay, let's say you have somebody like that in your church. That type of person is going to need really intentional pastoring, because they're weird and they can be tempted to believe.
Tell me what you really think, Jay.
Well, I'm just saying they are. They need someone to say, hey, we need to ground you in certain ways, and we need to help you because you have a unique way that gifting works in your life. If you have somebody really, really bright, like they're like a savant, and maybe that shows up in how they understand the Bible, or maybe they're a particular kind of engineer, whatever it is, they're going to need a very intentional form of pastoring, because they don't know how to relate to the normal world. You know, this is a beautiful mind type of person. They probably lose track of reality from time to time. They need a certain kind of pastor, a certain kind of community to come around them and support them. The same is true with serious artists. If you're like a real artist, you're listening to me, I'm sure you know that you're eccentric and strange, and you have a temptation to become elitist. You need people that help you. Okay. In this same way, People who have real influence that shows up financially in their life are often very lonely. They live with all kinds of guilt and shame. They don't know what to do, and they need pastoral relationships. And so Paul shows up and says, notice these people because they need help. And so, Jason, we're obviously trying to encourage pastors to live this way, but we as Vineyard USA are saying, hey, listen, pastors, leaders, you might know people like this. We would love an opportunity to partner with you, first of all, to pastor them and to talk about the kind of things we're doing with Vineyard USA. So talk a little bit about some of the ways you've done that and are doing that on behalf of Vineyard USA, or just even within what your role is.
So even like this story I shared about that pastor in Cleveland, like I've actually continued conversation with that specific parishioner for that church, and she's awesome. And our last conversation, she was telling me how this whole trajectory she's been on has changed her so much. Because I asked her, I said, when did you discover that you had the gift of giving? She's like, I don't think I discovered it until he asked me. Mm-hmm. And she pointed at her pastor. And now she's at a point where she and her husband have been thinking through what stewardship looks like so much that now all of a sudden they decided, oh, we're actually going to help our kids buy their first homes. We're going to teach them what it means to turn these homes into homes to flip later into retail management if they want, or it could be their forever home. We're helping them buy it now because we want them to have stewardship over it now. So that's their inheritance kind of thing. And she's looking at other things and just saying, okay, well, what else do I need to steward better?
Right.
And she's now to the point where she's actually their volunteer financial director at the church. I mean, she just is enjoying life in a whole new way. Mm-hmm. So that's a simple way, like when I think through it. When I also think through it, like we are doing more coaching. We're trying to help pastors get to the point of actually seeing their people as not just theirs.
Yes.
But like the reality is some of these people in these local churches are going to influence kingdom through their resources in a way that's bigger than what their local church can do and handle. And so for that, they need space to be able to exercise these muscles that God is giving them to exercise when it comes to finances and when it comes to resources and when it comes to assets. And so like it's helping those people actually step into new spaces that are with the local church, but also for the greater church. Mm-hmm. And so like even as simple as like I'm honest with pastors, like when one of their local people choose to give a major gift to Vineyard USA, 10% will go back to the local church because in my mind it's all kingdom anyway.
Yep.
Like we're not afraid to say the money's not ours.
Right.
So it's always been the king's. And so like we are doing as much as we can right now to help local pastors figure out a new paradigm.
Yep.
To be able to feel equipped to have these conversations. But here's the piece that I would always encourage local pastors. I mean, in all my years of fundraising, whether it was at the academic institutions or at the hospitals, like it didn't matter to me whether a person chose to give in that moment. They're allowed to say no. Mm-hmm. Like, but understanding that a no right now is not a no always.
Right.
But that because there's a process.
Yep.
And most of these people are trying to figure out, what do I do with this money? And I was working with a lot of non-Christian types in my past with academic and hospital institutions. But when I've worked with Christians, the question has always been, can I have some time just to pray through this? That's the time between them and the Lord to work through it so they can actually end up being the cheerful giver they're meant to be.
Precisely.
Right? And I don't think pastors sometimes are comfortable with that. It's scary.
Yep.
It's that space of like, okay, I'm trusting this to the Lord too.
Right.
Because they may choose to give to a local church, or they may choose to give to some local homeless shelter because they've been inspired by their church.
Right.
And that feels counterintuitive, but actually it's part of the process the Lord has for that person.
Yeah.
And when that person is engaged and the pastor is saying, hey, follow the Lord, go after it, guess what's going to happen? It's going to lead to more on the back end for the pastor and the local church too, because this person is seeing this place as a place they're learning how to give. They're learning how to think through life differently. And they're going to want to bless that place. It may not be in that moment, in that specific ask.
Yeah.
But sometimes it is. The point where that pastor in Cleveland, their reserves, they don't need to do that ask with this person anymore because he's been so empowered to just talk about money. Their reserves are in the healthiest place they've ever had now. And so he's just so excited about what's going on because he asked this one person who he thought had the capability and who expressed an interest. And I kept telling him early on, I was like, you should talk to her, see what happens. He's like, okay. But the Lord nudged her first. So that was really cool. But I guarantee you, if he would have nudged her, she'd be on the same trajectory because the Lord would be doing something. The Lord had marked her. He's like, hey, it's time.
Yeah.
And when we step into that space with as pastors, as leaders, it's fun to watch people come alive. And so all that to say, when it comes to what I would encourage all people who are in leadership, especially pastors, if you hear these people who are throwing around what they're buying, where they're going, how often they're taking trips, how often they're doing things, or even if someone says, hey, I have this place, do you want to use it? That's a telltale sign to say, hey, this is really cool that you have that heart. Where'd this come from?
Yes.
Can I just ask you questions and get to know what's going on and what the Lord's done with you up to this point?
That's really good. That's really helpful.
Please. And this is the piece that I would say to pastors really honestly. Get curious for the sake of their walks with Jesus, not for the sake of what they can bring to your bottom line.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because I think that's the temptation. And that's the struggle inside our souls. But when we're able to freely say, hey, I want to get to understand why you do the things you do. And the more you're able to bring the king and the kingdom into that framework for them, the more they will say, this is the place that I want to be part of.
Yep.
And this is the place that I want to see grow. This is the place that I want to see bear much.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beauty of it. And here's the thing. They're going to give to the local church as much as the local church can handle. Like if a person's making $10 million a year, they're not going to give you $1 million tithe realistically.
Right.
If you're a small church of 100 people, because they're good stewards and they don't want you to be, as a church, out of whack.
Right.
With your resources. But guess what? They're going to give. They're going to try and figure out how to get rid of the money. Not get rid of. Be a blessing with their money to other places because they have so many pockets.
Yep.
And that's where I hope pastors are starting to realize, it doesn't always have to be out there all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But it could just be, hey, have you thought about Vineyard USA? Because you could actually impact a lot of churches like us.
Yes.
Thinking through even the reality of I think it was 52% of our churches are 100 people or less.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yeah, something like that. Yep.
Yeah. And so think about that. If a person who's making 10 mil a year chooses to give 1 million out of tithe to a bunch of churches like ours, and they're still giving a good chunk of what we get, of what we need.
Yep.
That's the kingdom being the kingdom.
Yep. I love that. Well, it probably goes without being said, but let's say it explicitly. If while Jason and I have been talking, you start thinking about particular people. So we're talking, you're a pastor, you're a leader, you're a person at Vineyard. You're going, man, I keep thinking about my buddy Joe, who I went to high school with, who loves the Lord. And gosh, I wonder if anybody is helping him think about this. Or I'm thinking about my son or my daughter, or I'm a pastor and I'm like, there is this guy that owns this company. I don't even entirely understand what they do. He's always on planes, or he does have meetings all the time. I don't actually know what he does, but from time to time, he has written us a larger check to help us with this or that thing. I probably am supposed to do something with them. I don't exactly know what to do. You guys gave me some thoughts. You maybe put them on my radar. Maybe, at the risk of being super spiritual, the Holy Spirit is even leading you right now. You're like, man, I keep thinking about this one person. And you're like, I don't know what steps to take. We would love to help you think about that. That you're hearing stories of what Jason is doing, and you can just reach directly to Jason. We have some other folks on our team that work with that stuff. So, same email address, you can write and say, hey, can I get 15 minutes with you on the phone, talk about this particular person? We would love to be able to help, because obviously we want to serve the Vineyard as a whole, and we also want to be able to get an opportunity to talk to the right kind of people about what Vineyard USA is doing, to see if they'd be interested. So reach out. We would love to help. So cool. Jason, you want the last word? Anything last thing to say to all of our wonderful people?
I love what our pastors do. And I pray that there will come a day in each pastor's journey where they feel as comfortable talking to someone about money as they do about the gospel itself.
Amen.
Because the reality is, money is one of the quickest conversations that reveal the idols of our heart.
Yes, for sure. Well, and we didn't talk about it here, but of course our partnership with Generous Giving, did the long interview. Also, we'll be here on We Are Vineyard about the work they do. There are people that are partnering with us. We have so many interesting things to look at. So if you're listening and you want to ask questions about anything we talked about, or anything you're even curious about in this arena, hit Jason up. I'm grateful for your work, Jason. I'm excited for what's ahead. Thanks for making time.
All right. Thanks, brother.
The We Are Vineyard podcast is a production from the team at Vineyard USA. If you've been enjoying the podcast, here are a few ways you can help us. Leave us a review on the podcast platform of your choice. This helps more people find us. Connect with us online for additional resources. Our website is vineyardusa.org, and we're on Instagram, Facebook, and X at Vineyard USA. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.